Thank you, everyone. Just see the sun rising over there. It's about 12 degrees at the moment, which is beautiful. Toilet facilities over there. The engine's still together, looks like it. We'll have to test it out afterwards to make sure it's all functional. Wife's still asleep in there. A few of the neighbours starting to wake up. Liam was just saying that there were quite a few rats around the bushes where he was over there overnight. So probably something to be certainly mindful of. Today we are checking out the township of Winton, the Waltzing Matilda Centre, and also visiting the Age of Dinosaurs exhibit. Jolly swag, man. Waltzing Matilda Centre, Mr. Andrew Barton, Banjo, Patterson. He wrote the words of Waltzing Matilda in 1895 to a tune played by Christina McPherson, and the first performance was in 1895 on the 6th of April. It was Australia's most unofficial national anthem at the time. And inscribed on the floor was a Jolly Swagman camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree. And he sang and he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, etc., etc. And the rest of the story goes on. The Waltzing Matilda Centre is a very informative and interpretive centre which explains the song Waltzing Matilda from its initial inception to various changes that have taken place in words made to it over the years. He didn't jump in the waterhole and drown himself. It was believed he might have. It's not the wording though.
No, but it got changed.
The centre also outlines the history of Australian life a turn of the century ago, especially the country climate and conditions. The Winton area is a place of Australian filmmaking, the unearthing of dinosaur bones, the start of Qantas and plenty more. Qantas moved its headquarters in 1922 to Longreach. However, it was instigated in the township of Winton. The Avro 504K Diac was the first aircraft it operated.
Waltzing Matilda sits at the centre of our culture. It is a wellspring of the national sentiment. The sentiment, a billabong.
The visual and audio effects on the main curtain tell the story of the harsh Australian lifestyle and the struggles Australian farmers dealt with on a daily basis.
Sure, what happened with Banjo, Patterson and Waltzing Matilda happened in the realm of the spirit. He wrote a story to a tune which quite mysteriously picked up the spirit of the place as it was then. Years of recession and 2 world wars. And it touches us as a ghost might. This was Banjo Patterson's whole trick. The song is the ghost of the swagman. And 100 years later we still
There is also a museum of numerous artefacts including trains and railway carriages, medicine and dental equipment, farming and shearing equipment, military stories and many more. Cost of the centre and the exhibits was about $35 per adult, and you can spend a couple of hours taking it all in. Certainly a very worthwhile centre to visit. The main street of Winton had numerous information boards and art sculptures commemorating and preserving the history of the town, Winton's significance as the dinosaur capital of Australia, Qantas's inception as an aerial service for mail, and of course the influence of Banjo.
Once there was a swagman camped in the billabongs under the shade of a cocoa tree. He sang as he looked at the old Billy boiling. Oh, come on, sing Matilda with me. Up came the jumbuck to drink at the waterhole. Jumped the swagman and grabbed him with me. He sang as he put him away in the tucker bag. Come on, sing Matilda with me. Okay, so we're riding his there. Okay, policeman, 1, 2 and 3. Here's the jumbuck, you got in the tucker bag. You're coming waltzing Matilda with me. Swagman, swagman, don't you know? Got himself out from that tree. Just gonna be hard as he thinks it. Royal Theatre, open air picture theatre.
Free protein. I like that. Black. Free protein.
Where is the reception?
This is Banjo. That's a long walk on the yellow to the fossil preparation laboratory over here. Here for about an hour, then we head back to reception, and then we get on a guided tour after that for an hour or so.
This is a generalised representation of the black soil out here at current preparation rates.
15.
15, essentially. The dream team working it out. But those bones are about 15 years in total to get them off the shelves. Quite fragmentary. That's the surface that has been attacked by the black soil. It's porous. Fossils aren't bone anymore, they're rock. But they maintain the form and function of bone, form and structure of bone. So, liquids get absorbed well. Heavy, dense bones could sink down into that mud. Additionally, if something came along and stepped on it, it would be less likely to break, it would be more likely to just be pushed down further. So, these bones are more likely to be preserved in the first place. So, do come back and do
Size of the cow.
last dentist appointment. But essentially, they do allow for the single grain of sand. And that will be one of the smaller tools. Then it goes through rock like butter. It goes through bone like butter. So, you have to be trained on it. Very strongly. But,
First of all, you look for something that's brown coloured. Now, most of what you've got here is brown coloured, but there are areas where it's still got a bit of siltstone left on it, like this area through here. It's still got a bit of a white coloured layer.
Gotcha.
So that's what we're taking off, and then we're getting down to the brown layer. Now, when you get to brown, It may just be the last layer of rock round the bone because that's often stained with the same iron salts that stain.
Spread on the floor on the right is Matilda. Matilda is a Dimantinosaurus matildae, which means Matilda's diamantine lizard, and she's a sauropod, the long neck, long tail plant eater, like on our logo. And the third one is all the way over on the table on the right. That one is Wade. Wade is another sauropod. He is a different species to Matilda. He's a Savanosaurus eleotorum, which means Eliot's grassland lizard. Now, to start off the collection room tour, we will be watching 2 videos with a short break hand side of the table, spread from top to bottom. We're very lucky with Banjo's legs because the bones that we don't have in the right leg, we do have in the left, and vice versa. So we can construct what a full back leg would look like. And Banjo's leg bones are so well preserved that we can see the muscle scarring on them. So that's where the muscles sat when he was alive. That's how we got the big muscly leg on the statue in the center of the room. So that big leg leads us to believe that Banjo was an ambush predator, like a cheetah. So he was running out of the forest to catch his prey at about 20 to 25 kilometers an hour. So I will start with Matilda's hips, which are over here in front of me. This is Matilda's pelvis or hip girdle. Based on the size of Matilda's bones, we're looking at a 20-ton animal here. In fact, Matilda would have been about 16 meters long. So if her tail was in that corner of the room, her head would be over at the door. So the main differences between these 2 sauropods is the ankle bone next to me just here and the vertebrae or backbone at the back of the table. Wade has what we refer to as spaghetti bones. So he had air pockets running throughout many of his bones, which allowed him to distribute his weight really evenly across his whole body. What that means for Wade is he likely could have walked over mud a lot easier than other sauropods without sinking in. Another interesting thing about Wade's remains specifically is he has signs of being trampled by other sauropods after he died. So we have one rib, a very deep V shape, so the rest of them are gently curved. So we think that one's been broken. And there's a big stop mark out of the bottom of his arm bone as well.
First of all, that building there, that's got a Gondwana Star Observatory. That's where we run our night sky tours. We run those on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturday nights. Chickens scurrying around our landscape hunting for small prey. If you back then happen to be like a small reptile, small mammal, maybe an insect, congratulations, your lunch for these dinosaurs every day. And they were very good at it. They had very sharp teeth, very sharp claws and very sharp toes, and were incredibly agile. So there are actually quite a lot of Coelurosaur tracks that have been found in the Winton Formation, not just here. We've also found them at Dinosaur Stampede, which is Light Quarry. That's where we also run tours at, about 110 k's out of Winton. But these animals were pretty common around here. So they would have been very fast to also catch their prey, but also to avoid bigger dinosaurs so they couldn't get eaten. Speaking of which, the 2-track maker, the 2 dinosaurs standing directly across from them, these 2 dinosaurs going up to the size of a small room, those are ornithopods. Now, they walk on 2 feet like Coelurosaurs, but they are plant eaters. We have found ornithopods in Australia, Europe, North America. All these animals consistently have very beak-like mouths. So they were perfectly suited for eating lots of small plants and small ferns. That's what they were doing every day. They also make different footprints to the coelurosaurs. I'll point out the differences when we actually look at them. But the last track maker we're going to look at is a very special one. We do call this much the Titanosaurs for a very specific reason. You have obviously seen these two massive dinosaurs sitting smack bang in the middle of our canyon area. Those are Titanosaurs. Massive creatures. They come from the group called sauropod. You have seen quite a lot of them on your tours today. They were basically the giant long necks roaming our landscape. Sauropods pretty much all follow that same trend. Long neck, long tail, small head, quadrupeds, all walking on all fours, and raw plant eaters. But Titanosaurs, they were actually a fairly recent one we found. So we have found sauropods in Australia before. First dinosaur we found in Australia was in fact a sauropod, but that was the only one we found for almost 100 years, and then didn't really start finding more until about the 70s and 80s. And then the most recent Titanosaur we found was about almost 20 years ago. That one is called Matilda, Diamantinosaurus Matilda, who you've probably seen in the collection room. After we found her, we actually found more of her kin very quickly after it, believe it or not, at lots of different dig sites. We have found so many remains of Diamantinosaur, it's the most common sauropod in Australia, and thankfully, because of the remains we did find, it's actually the largest dinosaur from Australia so far. The big one there, that's sculpted to be the size of Matilda, about 16 metres long, weighing in at over 20 tonnes. The smaller one next to that, that's a juvenile. We have found remains of a juvenile. It's called Oliver, smallest sauropod we've found ever in Australia. But the reason why we've got a juvenile there is because there were actual tracks of an adult sauropod and a juvenile sauropod. And we're going to look into that as well, because it's quite interesting what actually happens to these two. Back then, Australia was nothing like the landscape it is now. It was nothing dry and arid. It was actually very much the opposite. Huge open temperate forests, lots of conifer trees, lots of dense vegetation, ferns, cycads, angiosperms, even wildflowers were starting to appear. Not only that, we had lots and lots of rivers. Huge prehistoric rivers, lots of billabongs, lots of lakes, and even more so, a huge inland sea that cuts straight through our continent, basically separating the eastern side and the western side of Australia. That was the Eromanga Sea, so we had lots of bodies of water. And of course, the climate's very different, much colder, lot hotter at certain points, but very much the cycle of seasons was very different. That made lots of footprints here. And one of them made two very big footprints here and over here. That would have been a partial footprint here. That's a front foot there where it stepped. Over here is another track maker who made a footprint over here, one over here, three other ones over along this side over here, and over here as well. These dinosaurs were massive. Based on their footprints, we can actually figure out, in terms of its metrics, how big these two probably are. They're about 25 metres long, almost. Huge. And weighing in at over 20 tonnes. They would have moved on all fours like elephants do. These are Titanosaur tracks. So these are the big, long necks. And we can see two massive ones, probably fully grown adults, that came lumbering through this area. Now, what they're doing is something quite peculiar. You can see on some of their footprints, that's one of them there, they've actually left behind these little markings. So what ends up happening, millions of years ago, what helps form the trackway is actually what was going on in the environment. We had a giant prehistoric river that basically ran along one side, and eventually that river floods. Everything fills over from it and drapes itself across the area. We had a lot of soil, which would have been mud back then, comes over the top, comes down to what would have been a billabong along this side here. Two huge bodies of water. Eventually, the water recedes, starts to dry up, and that's when we have a huge layer of mud these dinosaurs are walking through. And when our Titanosaurs are stepping, they're stepping with a lot of weight behind their feet. They're massive dinosaurs, and when they're stepping, they basically create suction under the feet. That actually allows things like mud to become trapped under it. So when it steps, especially on the back feet, once it steps to where the front foot would have been, it actually releases that suction. So it ends up with a little pillar of mud that sits right in the middle of its tracks. And then eventually, once the place dries up, all the mud dries up under the sun, it eventually turns to rock and siltstone like we have here. Perfect type of sedimentary rock to preserve fossils and footprints. So when this all dries up, all these footprints dry up, these dry up at the same time. So we end up with these little rock pillars that sit in their footprints. You can see actually quite a lot of them. Over here and over here, as well as up the back there, there's actually quite a lot of them. So these dinosaurs are extremely heavy when they're walking. What's also really interesting is what happens at the start of here. There is a lot of footprints here that have been pushed around. We call this area the trample zone. Basically, all the other dinosaurs that were making footprints there, they got overlapped by the titanosaur, or from where they're stepping, they're actually pushing the mud quite a lot. So if you happen to be a dinosaur back then, you left a beautiful set of tracks. Too bad, so sad for you. Those titanosaurs have destroyed your footprints. That's how it was back then. And of course, sauropods do not care. They're the biggest animals around. So any footprints that are there are pretty much unidentifiable at this point. They've been stepped over too much where you are right now. Now, one of those is a dinosaur that's moving along that side. It's actually about four footprints of the sample that came along this side over here, up to that end there. There's another one that's making some footprints over here, and a third one that's actually walking through this area here, making a set of footprints here too. There are 3 of these dinosaurs. They are making footprints that look like chicken footprints. These are the Coelurosaurs. So when you're looking at the tracks, you're looking for these very angular footprints. They look like little crowns. These dinosaurs are running through here, probably hunting for small prey, also keeping out of the way of these big titanosaurs. Furthermore, where they're stepping, the water is much more shallower, as well as the mud being less thicker. That's good because if they step down there, where those dinosaurs were moving, that mud being much thicker would be very hazardous for them. They could get stuck in that mud. We have found dinosaurs trapped in mud where they just couldn't free themselves, died in that spot where they were. So staying over this side was the best thing for them. They could also be looking for a small place to drink from the water here, but they're keeping out of the way of these big dinosaurs. Also, if you get stuck in that mud as a little dinosaur, not only can you die from things like starvation, you are also easy prey for a larger predator that comes through the area. They see a dinosaur sticking in the mud like that, they can't get away. That's easy pickings. That also goes for the other track maker, the ornithopods. These 2 big roo-sized dinosaurs. There's actually one making tracks over here. These tracks that look like triangles. There's at least one there. There's one along this side over here, going up towards that red marker there, and one over here. It's making tracks along that way. So we can tell the difference between them because of the shape of their footprints. The Coelurosaurs are making chicken-sized footprints like these ones here, and the ornithopods are making tracks that look like these ones. So we know they're not the same dinosaur. And we know ornithopods are herbivorous as well. So we have two large ornithopods that came roaming through the area, hunting for some small plants to eat probably, or like the Coelurosaurs, probably looking for a spot to drink from the water. Again, the water's become very shallow at this point. But what's great about this is there's not just dinosaurs here, there's actually tracks of other animals around about the same time. There is actually an animal that has made a set of tracks along here, and he has made footprints along here. They look like 2 footprints, so 2 toes when he's actually moving along this side here. There's a few of his footprints along here too. That animal that made them is actually a reptile. It's an ancestor of one alive today, and I'll give you the best hint of all. You probably would not want to go swimming with these guys. Crocodile. There is a prehistoric crocodilian that made a set of footprints there. That crocodilian was about 1 meter long based on his footprints. What he's actually doing is like crocs do today. Head just above the water and the rest of his body laying down in that mud. And then what he's doing is just carefully gliding on the water and just pushing off with his back toes. That is why you can only see 2 of its 5 toes on the footprints. There's also some drag markings there of where its tail would have been. So this water was very shallow for that croc.
Good. And based on how it's moving, it's actually not moving very fast, at a very casual pace. Probably looking for something like a fish, or maybe swimming up to the nearby riverbank to dry itself off. Footprints are incredibly important because they tell us what sorts of activity are going on with our animals. We would not know as much as we do now if we did not have footprints. As well as crocodilian. So it's actually a small coelurosaur and a little croc there. Making tracks up that way. There's some more tracks along that side too. There is also another set of tracks over here. And a very interesting marking right there in front of that gold marker. Looks like a semicircular smile. It's not just footprints we find, sometimes it's other things like jaw markings. So that there is the marking of a lungfish that actually was biting into the mud there. It was trying to suck its food up basically. But lungfish have been around even before dinosaurs. That one was in there at the same time as everything else. So lungfish, perfect source of food for crocs, turtles, even our dinosaurs like coelurosaurs, they probably eat a lungfish as well.
Why you got a hole in your mouth? Oh, you lost some teeth. He's got a smile on his face. Dinosaur stampede, or at least a reincarnation, a result of them being chased by one big sucker who looked pretty hungry. Pterodactyls. You're a simple man, eh?
Okay.
You're a simple man.
Huh. It's a tune.
In the corner of the crowded room, your eyes meet mine. Conversations fill the air, lost in space and time.
I am going to be making tacos. And Sharon is prepping all salads that go with it. The onions, the tomatoes, carrots,
No,
cheese.
I don't have carrots.
No, we're not having carrots.
Kids are the ones who like carrots.
Lettuce.
I don't like
Lettuce.
carrot either.
A bit of avocado as well, possibly. Down to about 140. Drizzle of oil. Onions. From 180, just fast cook it. Break it all down. Some taco meats. Half a cup of water. And mix. Let that cook for a few minutes. Let it simmer. This time we're using the grill. Sharon's just discovered plastic, which is fine, plastic wrapping over the stainless steel tray, but needs to be removed before we put our tacos on it.
I have no idea what that's for. No idea.
Right, try it this way. I should need to take it out. If you needed to take it out.
Good thing I got you with me. You're good for something. It's like now.
Yep, can see it.
Yep.
Let's see how she goes. Warming the tacos as opposed to burning them. And within minutes, it's all done. Something like that. Smothering it on. Hot taco sauce. Cheese, tomato, lettuce and avocado. And a bit of cream in it.
Yeah.
And dinner is served. It's Joshua's birthday today, so this
Happy
is
birthday, mate.
happy birthday, and we are eating in memory of you not being here, being one of your more favourite foods.
We miss you. Sorry that we're not with you for your birthday. But it is what it is.